6:45, morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Yeah, thank you very much to Sean in Northampton for getting in touch, because he says, I remember the fires in 1976 when the New Forest was ablaze. We had a massive fire on our farm in Piddle-Trentide in Dorset. It was a very scary time. I totally take... We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, actually, but I've always wanted to meet somebody from Piddle-Trentide. I've been through it several times, and you always think, oh, I wonder who lives here, because it's such a lovely name, isn't it? Piddle-Trentide.
It's very odd.
There are lots of piddles on the wires, and piddles and higher piddles and lower piddles, yeah. Oh. But Piddle-Trentide is quite a word. Can you imagine having to spell that out to people whenever you're ordering something online or something? Piddle-Trentide.
There's a thought. Anyway, in the papers this morning, the Telegraph has the public, that's us, must be spared the enormous burden of net zero, according to Tony Blair, of all people. It follows his comments that Britain must play its part, but its efforts alone won't be enough.
Bring out the champagne. The Times claims migrants are set to be housed in marquees for the summer as the Home Office try to avoid costly last-minute hotel bookings.
Triple lock pensions under threat from the Labour Party, who won't commit to the policy until they've reviewed the nation's finances, according to the Express.
In the Eye, the world has entered an era of global boiling, claims the UN chief. His comments come after scientists reveal that July is on track to be the hottest month ever by a large margin.
And in the Mirror, Britain's love of fast fashion fueling an environmental catastrophe in Ghana as outfits that we no longer want end up in toxic landfills.
Joining us this morning, GBNEWS' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson, as well as former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall. And it's lovely to see you both. You look both as though you've been on holiday.
They've been in Rhodes.
We have been in Rhodes.
Yeah.
We've been in Rhodes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we escaped within minutes before the fires actually closed on all the roads, and we couldn't get out. So we were very lucky.
Yeah, you really were.
Have been.
Oh, that's interesting that you've picked on the net zero story then in the Telegraph, and the fact that Tony Blair is now being outspoken on
Yes, it seemed to be slightly sort of muddled thinking from Tony Blair on this one. That he's absolutely right that when it comes down to tackling climate change, a small change in China would do far more than a big change in Britain. And what he's saying is, should ordinary Brits then face the burden of all the costs of trying to actually deal with global warming? I mean, the problem here is whether you believe in getting to the 2050 zero emissions target or not. And if you do, everybody has to play their part. So there will be a cost to us all. At the moment, ULEZ is the most controversial of all those things. But it's things like how you're going to feel if you have a wind farm on your doorstep. That's going to be part of the cost you pay. I just think that given that global warming is now the fourth biggest issue amongst voters in this country, I mean, first comes cost of living crisis, then it's NHS, then it's migration. If they really care about it, we're going to have to get to the idea we are going to have to pay for it and suffer a little bit of disruption because of it.
But Tony Blair is saying what Brian is saying this morning, who's been in touch. Morning to you, Brian. He says, we've produced less carbon since the Industrial Revolution than China has in the last 10 years. Everything we do is insignificant.
Yeah, nothing we do is frankly going to make any difference until China wakes up to this.
Well, I mean, it's absolutely right. It's a global problem, and the bigger the country, China, especially the industrialised countries, China, India, Russia, it is important that they do, if you like, more than we're doing. But if it's a global problem, we've all got to kind of do our bit.
Yeah, but all.
Well,
including those including the countries that just don't do anything.
As a staunch Tory.
It pains me to say this, but strangely, I'm agreeing with Tony Blair, which I find quite a little disappointing this time in the morning.
But that was uncomfortable.
It was very, very uncomfortable, because I do think that he has a point. That whatever we do in the United Kingdom, however fast we try and push it, if other countries in the developing world and places like China aren't doing their piece, then it's all for nothing. And why is it that all of these costs then come back down to the British taxpayer? And it's not just, oh, you put in a new heat pump, which is, you know, extortionate as it is. but there's no planning for any infrastructure. So if you're going to say, to make a difference, you need to have electric cars. OK, well, where's the infrastructure for charging? Well, it's not there, but we're going to charge you anyway, because we need other people to come on board. And you sort of think they're so confused in what they actually want to achieve at the moment, but they want us to pay for it anyway, that I think it's all backwards thinking. And for once, I think that Blair has a really, really good point, that until these other countries come on board, then whatever we do is futile.
No wonder we're all feeling anxious, stressed and depressed.
Yeah, nice segue into this.
I think I'm semi-professional, you know.
I'd heard.
Yes.
This is quite an interesting report. 1.35 million staff are off sick due to anxiety, stress or depression. Now, I think that we will all understand the pressure on the NHS and health services at looking after mental health, and they are woefully unprepared for the amount of people that they have on their books, and if people aren't going to get seen, then their working life is going to suffer from it. But what is quite surprising is the rising illness for people sort of 16 to 64. But I think when you look at the lower demographic of that, we need to do a little bit of investigating as to why younger generations are now suffering. Is it because they're talking about it more? I wonder if the awareness raising, if that is causing
Is it a good
people
excuse to be off? I know that sounds a bit harsh.
I wouldn't like to sort of put a downer onto anybody's mental illness, but I do think there are going to be a portion who will use that. It's the same as many years ago, the bad back was always the issue, wasn't it? That people were off work, and apparently this is one of those issues that is still around, along with stress and depression. A bad back or a bad neck is another reason to be off. So I think we have to look at people's attitudes. You also have to look at services provided for people, especially the younger generation, because if they're taking time off so soon into their work career, that's a real worry for the future. So I think we need a little bit of addressing, maybe a little manning up for some people, but also some real care for those who need it.
Yeah.
Can we talk about gardening, Nigel?
If you'd like to.
Because, well, that story that you've picked out, it's from The Star, saying a quarter of children have never planted a seed, grown fruit or done any sort of gardening.
No.
Now, you talk about stress now, but gardening is one of the best things to de-stress with.
I agree, but they're talking about 6 to 8-year-olds, and I can't imagine the 6 to 8-year-olds going out in the garden actually doing stuff.
Seeds and things.
I'm sorry.
You grow cress
You grow
and all that
carrots,
sort of
don't
thing.
you?
Tomato
Well, I mean, they
plants.
talk here about they've never picked a strawberry. Now, I started picking strawberries, I think, when I was about 16 rather than 10, and that was to earn money during the school holidays, and absolutely hated it. You sort of bake in the fields and...
Yeah, but that's work. What we're talking about, though, is sort of recreational things your parents teach you about how
What a kind of educational thing.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not even educational. I mean, it is, but it's dressed up as being pretty. You plant a flower, you water it, and it grows. It's absolutely astonishing.
Well, I quite like doing that now, but I'm not sure I'd want to do it when I was 6 years old.
Oh, Nigel. This is why you've turned out the way you have.
I'm obviously a killjoy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the actual joy of my son when he was little, having a little pot with a stick in it to tell him what it was, out on the patio in the garden with his little watering can, going and looking after it and watching this seedling grow, was something that he was just obsessed by and loved it. And no, all right, we didn't get, enough of a crop to feed anybody. But it was the whole process of understanding where things come from.
Well, you can buy me a set late in life and I'll start now. For Christmas.
I remember my sister went out and got some frog spawn from the village pond, put it in a tank on the windowsill and watched it grow into a frog.
Yes.
It was absolutely stunning.
Oh, yeah, we always did
Best
that
thing
with
ever,
frog spawn.
tadpoles, yeah. You've got to have that. And we had that in school when I was a kid in primary
But it shouldn't just be school, should it?
No.
It should be something that happens at home.
Oh, Nigel, I'm sorry.
I seem to have missed out hugely on
You
this
have
one.
missed out on that
Explains a
one.
lot, Nigel.
It does. Let's have a quick look at... I can't believe I'm saying this. Christmas in the Star.
Yes.
We're counting the days, apparently.
150 days, apparently, until that time of year that most of us will dread. But it's quite interesting, the list of toys that is already out, and is unsurprising that things like Barbie will be top of the list.
Oh, I bet she is, yeah.
Given all of the hype around the film at the moment, it's quite nice to see those kind of toys coming back. I remember I was a big fan of Cindy dolls when I was a kid. Didn't really have Barbies.
I
but
had a
Cindy.
Tressie at the time.
Tressie
Do you remember
with the
Tressie?
hair that grew.
She had hair that grew.
And
loved
Skeletrix is back. I mean, I had that when I was 8 years old.
Skeletrix, isn't it?
Yeah, I may not have actually planted anything, but at least I had a Skeletrix
That's
kit.
good.
Oh, yeah, we had a Le Mans set.
Oh, yeah, the real sort of top level one.
Oh, that
Did
was...
it have the lights that worked?
on the cars, yeah.
Yeah, but they hardly ever ran for much longer than 2 minutes before they
They'll
always
come
crashed.
off the track, yeah. But it's
Yeah.
good you used to love Skeletrix. It was a very big treat, that. Anyway, look, on that lovely note, we've got to leave it. But we'll see you two a little bit later on and go and argue it out over flowers in the green room. And we've got all the very latest on the Farage banking saga. I'll put my teeth in very shortly, straight after your weather.